Hi, this is Mrs. Zhu, and today we're going to be working on this classwork worksheet that we started on Friday. And you do have to have it done by Tuesday when we come back from the long weekend. We did question 1 and 2 on this worksheet right here. And the answer to it was n plus 240 would be greater than 500. And then n, or I think we used x in class, is greater than 260 miles. We also did number 2 with the at least $50 in his wallet. So we said we'd have $5 plus the remaining x dollars. That should be greater than or equal to 50. And to solve for x, x would be greater than or equal to $45. We'll box that. And then let's go down to number 3 here. Now, on this field trip, they have space for 120 students to go on the field trip. So I'm going to highlight some keywords here, and you can also do that with us. 120 students that are going. The next sentence we can highlight 74 students are currently going. We're going to write and solve an inequality. And then we're going to answer the question, how many more students can go? So let's start with our inequality. And so don't use equal signs. If I use a little box to help me visually see, let's say that the box represents all the students going. Now all of the students that can go is only up to 120, because the first sentence says that there's only space for 120 students. Now currently if I take this whole box that represents all the students, part of the box, I'm going to divide into 2 pieces. Part of the box, there have already been 74 students who have signed up. And since I am looking for how many more students would sign up, that would represent this piece of the box. Since 74 already signed up, there's still some more spaces. So that's going to be x because we don't know what it is and it's our unknown. And since this box represents all the students going, which can only be up to 120, we would write our inequality as 74 plus x. You can only have up to 120, which means you can't have more than that. So then that means 74 plus x will be less than, but it could be equal to as well, 120. So that's the inequality I'm going to use and as I write my inequality. And then I'm going to solve that inequality. To solve that inequality, I'm going to do that over here. 74 plus x is less than or equal to 120. To find x, I want to isolate it by subtracting 74 with this 120, giving me 46. So x is any number less than or equal to 46 students. So I'm going to label that. And then that's how many spaces are left and how many more students can sign up. So I'm going to write that answer here. X is less than or equal to 46 students. And that's the solution to this problem. Let's skip down to number 6 here. Now I'm going to highlight the key information. Leslie wants to be at least 72 inches. He is 56 inches right now, so let's highlight that. And I want to highlight again the writing and solving. There's a little typo there, and solve. And then we're looking for the question. We're answering how much more Leslie would have to grow. So let's get started. Let's just say that he is, let's just draw a picture. I'm going to use a different method here. So there he is. He is 56 inches. He wants to be 72, which means he needs to grow a certain amount to reach this level. And we're going to say that level is 72 inches. Now there's obviously an amount that he has to grow right here. So if this became like a little bar, we know that this part of the bar is 56, and then we have this missing part that he's going to grow, and that's going to be our x. So if I were to add 56 plus x, then we know that'll be the height that he wishes to be. So since he wants to be at least, that's our keyword, he could be that amount, or he could be shorter. No, he wants to be at least 72, so he wants to be at least that amount or taller. So 56 plus x, amount that he grows, has got to be greater than or equal to 72. So that's our inequality. Then to solve it, I'm going to take the 56 that I'm adding with x, and as I'm isolating x, I want to subtract 56 with the 72, because that's the inverse. So x is going to be the height that's going to be greater than or equal to 16. And we're going to label that as good inches. So he's got to grow 16 or more inches. Let's look at number 7 here. Julius is allowed to surf. Okay, so let's highlight what we need here. And remember, if you're watching this video, I hope that you've tried these questions already first, so that you can get some practice and then come back to the video to help you. So he says that he's allowed to watch only 3 hours a week. He's been online for 1 2/3 of an hour, so highlight that. Again, I'm going to write and solve an inequality. And the question that I want to have answered is, how much more time does he get online for the week? So I'm going to draw a box. This whole box is all the time online that he gets, which is, he only gets 3 hours, so which he only gets up to 3 hours. Okay, another way of saying up to is a maximum of 3 hours, or no more than 3 hours. So that's his cap. Now if I were to split this bar into 2 pieces, we know that part of the time already he's been online for 1 2/3 of an hour. We want to find how much more time he can spend, which would be this missing piece right here, so I'm going to label that as x, a variable. Now since that's all the time he could spend, if he were to spend some more time, plus the time he already spent, which is 1 2/3 of an hour, we know that that should total up to 3 hours, or be a maximum or no more than 3 hours. So the inequality symbol that we want to use should be, it could be equal to 33 hours, and it's got to be less than that because he can't go over 3 hours. So the missing amount of hours that he still has, plus how much he's already been online for 1 hour and 2/3 of an hour, has to be less than or equal to 3 hours. So if I solve for that, I'm going to subtract 1 2/3 from 3. So that's going to be 3 minus 1 2/3. If I subtract a fraction, I have to make sure that first the mixed fraction is improper. So I'm going to have 3 minus 5/3. When I subtract a whole number minus fraction, I have to put a 1 under the whole number, and I need a common denominator when subtracting. Okay, keep going down here. And the common denominator will be 3, so I'm just going to work over here. The common denominator is 3. So if 1 times 3 is 3, then 3 times 3 is 9. And 5/3 is already 3 as a denominator, so I'm just going to subtract 5 from the 9. So 9 minus 5 is 4, and 4/3. So x is going to be, so I'm going to use that, put it back into my work over here. 3 minus 1 2/3 is 4/3. So x is anything less than or equal to 4/3. That's the same thing as saying 1 hour and 1/3 of an hour. So x is anything less than or equal to 1 1/3 hour. That's as much time he's got left. And I'm going to box this as well because that's our inequality that we wrote for number 7. Let's turn to the back. The worksheet that we did on the back, we've already completed 1 and 2 in class. So again, the answers to those is 1.5x is greater than 51, and x was greater than 34 bags. Here we have 2.50x is less than or equal to $20, since that's all she has to spend. And so x is less than or equal to 8 fish. Let's look at number 3, this pizza question. The key words here are splitting a pizza with Fulcrum and 4 of his friends. They spend at most $4 per person. So let's write an inequality and solve, and then find the maximum that they're going to spend. So since we're splitting a pizza, we're going to use division. So splitting it, we're going to use division. Okay, so we're going to divide the cost of the pizza, which we're looking for. Okay, so we're going to use P for the pizza. If I were to divide it with Vilkram and his 4 friends, which means there's 5 people, so if I divide it by 5, that would give me the cost per person. Okay, it's called the unit rate. Since I divide it with 5 people, then I would know how much it's going to cost per one person. So the price of the pizza divided by 5 should be at most $4 per person, which means that it's got to be less than or equal to 4. So price divided by 5 is less than or equal to $4. I could set it up where the price is less than or equal to 4 times 5, which is really the work that I'd be showing by solving this inequality, where 5 would move to the 4 and multiply with it. So that's how I also get that P is less than or equal to 20, which means the price of the pizza can only cost $20 or less, so that 5 of the people will only be spending $4 maximum for their pizza. So I know that most of us maybe worked backwards from that question. We knew that 20 should have been in there because we multiplied in our head 4 times 5. So you could also use this inequality, but also know that your inequality could also look like P divided by 5 is less than or equal to 4 as well. Let's look at number 4, because I know 4 was difficult too. So I'm going to do 4 on just on this corner here. I'm going to highlight the key things. She has 13 tablespoons left over. Each batch takes 3 1/4 of a tablespoon. So again, we're writing and solving an inequality, and the question we're answering is to find the number of batches Sadie can make. So if the jar, I'm just going to draw a jar just to help us. The jar has got 13 tablespoons in it of the yeast. So to make a batch of rolls, we need 3 1/4 tablespoon each. Remember, the key word is each. Okay. Each means multiplying. It's like saying per. In each batch, 3 1/4 tablespoons is used per batch, or each batch needs 3 1/4 tablespoons. So I'm going to take 3 1/4 tablespoons and multiply that with the number of batches. So I'm going to use B for batches. And how do I know that's what I'm multiplying? Well, our each is representing our tablespoons per batch. That's how I know that I'm multiplying that. And I know I'm multiplying it would be an unknown variable because I'm trying to find the number of batches. And since I don't know what it is, I use a variable. So 3 1/4 tablespoon times the batches. Well, I only have 13 tablespoons in the jar, which means that I'm only allowed to use up to 13. So up to, or a maximum of 13, which means that this expression here has got to be less than or equal to 13, because I cannot go over that amount. The number of batches that I have can't be greater than 13. So now that's how we've set up the problem, and now we're going to solve. So go ahead and divide that 3 1/4 with 13. Use an improper fraction, which is 13 over 4. Find a common denominator, which is 4. and then go from there. Your batches should be less than or equal